So this is a departure for us, away from Zoom and over to Riverside. So we'll have to see how this works out for us. But I'm confident because it records everything on separate tracks, audio and video, and it records it locally, then uploads it into the cloud. I think this should be good.
Well, let's give it a go.
Mm.
I'm here.
I did see Daniel Jacopelli, who I'm meeting later on this month.
Yeah.
I saw he was using Riverside, so that's a pretty good endorsement.
Good. And he was Courier. Now what's his new thing?
For Starters, there's a newsletter called For Starters. And actually, I'll send over the link to the podcast because it's not just a newsletter. He's got big ideas, really cool ideas, like almost like the idea of like, I think obviously he would be able to explain it better than me, but I think initially the idea is that, so you have the newsletter, then you have like a community of starter businesses, and it's a supportive community. And then from that, almost the idea of like, you would have like a sticker in the window, like I'm a For Starters sort of thing. And there would be, again, like this visual sort of support. And I think he's got this idea of having like a street. So I can't remember, where was the first album store?
First album store was Beak Street in Soho.
Which was, and am I right that was quite like you had other fashion startups, or was it?
That they weren't necessarily fashion startups, but they were like new. Shaftesbury Beak Street was allocated to new brands, new coffee shops, newness.
Yeah, so and I think that's his idea essentially, is to have like a street that is, for starters essentially. And I love it. I'm really looking forward to seeing him and meeting him and just getting an idea of what he's doing, because I think he's got big ideas. He's clearly someone who can make stuff happen. His first job out of university, I was just reading, his first job out of university was with Monocle. And he was the host of The Entrepreneurs. So he's definitely got a good network, and I think lots of people are going to support what he's doing, which is great.
For sure. Yeah, I met him a few years ago when I think he just started Courier, or just started at Courier.
Okay.
So from Monocle. I think we knew
It's a shame that because Courier got bought out by MailChimp, and I don't know. I mean, I'll ask him about it. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but essentially Courier is no longer. And I love that magazine. Like, it just felt like it was made for me.
Very much right for the time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of makes sense that MailChimp bought it in a way.
Well, I think especially over COVID, they went they were doing like, I think, daily podcasts and stuff like that. So there was a lot of editorial going on with it. But yeah, big shame that it was bought and then kind of shuttered. But it'll be interesting to find out what happened there.
Yeah.
But what has been going on with you, production-wise, brand-wise, whatever?
I would say I have been at a low point this year in the scheme of things. Ultimately, I've taken too long to get out there.
Okay.
Not that has affected... Well, it affects one thing, because you're not generating revenue.
Sure.
But the longer something takes, it really drains on you. Like, they're like lots of doubt.
Yeah.
And I probably had a bunch of doubts anyway, but not about the product. When I see it on a rail, I'm like, bang on. More personal. They're just more personal.
Okay.
Like, can you do it again? Do you want to do it again? But I've sort of in the new year start of new year, just a bit of introspection and go, actually, what I love is products. I love developing products, and I love brands and getting that message out there. So it leads quite well into our convo today, really, because I think you can start things without having the thing.
Yeah.
So I'm
well, I think, but I think that's an interesting one as well, in terms of, because when you're not putting stuff out and you're not getting the feedback from your audience, it's very difficult to keep moving forwards, because it's only you and your head and your belief in yourself that's getting you to push things forward. You're not getting that external validation or otherwise, because it doesn't have to be validation. It can be like when I took the first peacoat round to Marcus, and he was just like, "This has got a long way to go." Okay, and that then set me off down a different path. But it was that external input that was really necessary.
Yeah. Yes. All of those things. When I remember back to album, probably the same when you had your agency,
Mm-hmm.
you thought the thing that you did was brilliant. And I remember back to sitting in a friend's apartment in Manchester, and they were both designers.
Mm-hmm.
This couple, super, super cool. And there was me getting really excited about this swatch of fabric that I developed, like something so run of the mill for them. And I was so pumped up. But for them, it's just like, yeah, I mean, like looking back on it now, they just had piles of this stuff on their desk,
Yeah.
working for these
Okay.
sports brands. But I
Yeah.
was so pumped up and kind of like unashamedly excited for this thing, which sort of changes after a while.
Well,
But
go on.
but I didn't have the, like, now I'm a bit more like, it's got to be just so, it's got to be just right. I know more. This is kind of missing, etc., etc.
And there's something that stops you though with that. So I talked quite a lot about when I was running my agency. I didn't want to put myself in front of the camera, and yet it would have been really effective for me to have done it then, talking about digital trends and all that sort of stuff. Because I had such imposter syndrome. But then the problem and the problem with that was that because I was thinking I was speaking to people who were my peers and above, and people with more experience, and forgetting the people who could benefit from the knowledge that you do have. And I think that can happen a lot. Because as you understand more, you get better at your trade, and there's a benefit to that. But then there is also this thing where your younger self who was looking at that swatch and was just like, "This is amazing! I can't wait to move forwards with this." You would have created something excellent out of it. But now you might look at that swatch and go, "Well, you know what? It's 78%." Instead of 80% there or whatever. And then you spend months working on that extra 2%.
Yeah.
That your peers and better will notice, but that it makes no difference to the end result. So you're doing it for you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely, what I have done, just thinking about the start of this year, because the year's gone kind of fast.
No, I know, it's ridiculous.
Fast
Halfway
and
through March.
Yeah, fast and slow though. Started off the year going brill. Jeans will be ready. I think that was probably a message that we had over Christmas. I was like, fab, like jeans are great. Then there was a denim problem with the actual fabric, because the mill was going bust, and it was a big mill. And I was like, oh fucking hell, what other things are going to happen to like push this thing back? Because I'd wanted to show it all in January, and then you're getting like, you have to turn on your kind of chill, kind of relaxed mode, going, okay, these things happen for a reason. Fucking hell, why has this thing happened?
Yeah, the oscillation. Yeah.
That came full circle actually with the denim, because I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the denim I wanted to use right from the beginning. Contacted them. Again, all these things of when someone gets back to you very quickly, I always think it's a really good sign. Like when things start to move really quickly. Fired this email off into like on their website, sent it in. Head of sales for that region fired it back, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to be in Guimarães on Wednesday." And I was like, amazing, because the factory's in Guimarães. Like, wow, I only spoke to you on like Monday. Brilliant. Turns out, and he's Italian.
Okay.
And this is Candiani denim. A great denim. Really experienced, really like everything is pretty locked down. Turns out he lives there.
Okay.
And he was going to the factory I'm making with anyway. And I was like, fuck, mate, okay, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
he just knows his stuff. We're all a similar age, and I said what I was trying to do. And the great thing about when you see the agent, certainly for denim, they start to show you garments. They show you jeans in the denim rather than just swatches. And it's so much easier to see
Yeah,
a
sure.
finished product. Might not be your style or you like, stitching, whatever, but they've got their own laundry, so they've washed it. They've got the recipe.
Yeah.
First thing he showed me, I was like, oh, we're done. That's it. Brilliant.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
denim. Turns out the denim is all the things that actually I wanted. It's their stock running service, because I want to make a really great pair of jeans in a variety of shades from black to white, including indigo, obviously, that can wash really well, so you can get different washes and finishes on them. And it's their stock service. It's regeneratively farmed in Spain. All of the things that I was like, oh, it'd be nice to have regenerative. But before it was like, oh, it's organic. There are no minimums. There are like this thing of like, hang on. It's regenerative. It's grown in Spain, woven in Italy, made in Portugal. So it's like a nice line across Southern Europe.
Yeah, nice.
It's regenerative cotton. It's with you as a mill. It's fully traceable. And there are no minimums. This is amazing. So
you almost say,
actually,
where's the catch?
Kind of where's the catch? I guess the catch is someone then buys all of the stock, and then you're like, oh shit, I'm back to square one.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
But it was just like, okay, so good things came from that. Then you're just in the process of sampling. Takes a long time.
I think, yeah. And in fact, one of the things that I wanted to do was this almost kind of like, with all of your production knowledge, like if you were to have your time again, which I guess you do now.
Yeah.
Like, what have you learned? Like things that you wish you'd known before you started.
Or things that I wish I'd known before I'd started, or what would I do differently now?
I guess, yeah, I was going to say two parts of the same story, really.
What would I do differently? Well, I was returning to this, which is a little bit different, because I'm actually returned to. So I've had the issue with the factory first, and then I had the issue with the fabric second, like two problems. I had a choice when I was choosing the factory. I went with the shiny factory that had a great showroom that kind of looked like the best.
Okay.
And now best is the one that's most appropriate for you to get the result that you want. But I chose it by being the best. Like fancy building, lovely cars outside, great showroom, but they weren't very good for me. Actually, their knowledge of denim, even though they're a denim factory, I wouldn't say was super high.
Okay. Do you think that that's, sorry to interrupt, but do you think that that's something that can cross over to somebody as, like, I guess, how would you summarize that? Is it that do your research? Like, don't be taken in by the shiny front?
Well, I had the option of returning to what I knew, which was a factory that had been very good for me at Album, very loyal, developed a great product.
Okay.
But they weren't necessarily as shiny. And I had this thing in my head of, okay, I'm returning. I'm going to return with the best and the shiniest, rather than I'm going to make the best product I can.
Yeah.
Like product and factory are sort of two different things. And to that, I was chatting to a friend yesterday just on WhatsApp, and she was saying, do you need any other factories? I was showing her the samples, and she's like, oh, there's this factory that makes jeans, but it's not a very pretty one. It's kind of like a garage.
Okay.
And I was like, well, that was, making in the early days of Album in Leicester at this great factory, which is Canty.
Uh-huh.
But it was kind of like, oh wow, up this rickety fire exit staircase, but
Yeah.
super loyal, amazing. The product had character because it
Mhm.
didn't have something that we'll come on to, like the latest machinery, so it kind of flattens and homogenizes everything.
Yeah.
Product had character. The pictures, the visuals of the place were great. The
Yeah.
story was great. All of these things that actually really human and
Uh-huh.
and went on to do great stuff for our jeans. And I think this is a similar thing. So
Okay.
what things look like, first impressions count, but then when
Mm.
you know what you can get out of a place.
Yeah. Well, I
And
think that
I would take
and
loyalty and good sewing
mm,
over fancy car park, being picked up in a nice
yeah.
car, this, that, and the other.
Yeah. But I guess it's difficult to you have to learn that yourself. It's difficult to, you can't package up that advice, really. It's and this is also this goes to your previous comment about the fact that things take time. And I think that if I was to have if I've learned anything and could tell myself, my earlier self anything, it would be accept that these things take time. And
Mm.
potentially instead of just focusing on one product, like have a number of products on the go, potentially with different factories, appropriate factories, but so that you're not waiting a year and a half to get a P coat dialed in. You might
Yeah.
wait a year and a half to get the P coat dialed in, but in between, you've also got this sorted and that sorted.
Yeah. Yeah. Working with factories, I do think, and you tell me if this is your experience, like working at
Mm.
pace, they love to work at pace. That seems to get people's interest when you're sampling and into the next sort of like comments come back quickly
Yeah.
so they can
Yeah.
almost like whilst it's in their front of mind,
Mm.
they like it front of mind, and the sooner they do it, it gets to an order. However, there are then some things that just naturally slow it down. Like, okay, I want the buttons and the labels, but they take
Yeah.
6 to 8 weeks, and so you can never really find a cadence.
Yeah. I think my experience is not that. That's what I want. Like, I think I'm working at pace. Like, the way I see it is that because my order minimums are always going to be at the minimum.
Mhm.
I say always at the moment. Um, I'm high effort for low return for a factory, and I understand that totally. So I need to find factories that understand that as well. That want to be known for creating beautiful stuff. That and if that reputation goes with the product that I'm selling, and they can see that, then we're on a level because
Yeah,
then they're like, it's fine. This will take time, but this product will go out there, and our reputation will be improved for the people that Mark's speaking to.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, if I'm saying like the sampling phase for me takes just as long as a company who's then going to put in an order for 10,000 pieces, and I'm putting in an order for, well, if they're made to order, let's say 20 pieces,
yeah.
maybe 50. So I need to find. So my experience is that I think when another larger company comes in, then I get pushed to the bottom of the pile. That's been my experience to date.
Mm. Yeah, I think that will always happen.
Yeah, and I think that the way that I play it is just that my role to overcome as many delays as possible is to respond as quickly as possible. So I will, if I get questions, I will respond in the day. If I get an invoice through, it's paid in the day, so that everything on my side is just moving at that sort of pace, so that
Mm.
I can't be accused of any delays.
Yeah, yeah,
Whether
I
it's
think
effective or not, I don't know. I think it just takes time. And again, this is where it comes down to what would you like to know before you start it? It's all going to take time. You might get really lucky and find that your exact product aligns with that exact factory, and you can, it works
yeah.
well.
I
But the
I
likelihood is that it'll take longer.
I do think they're just natural things, like things
Mm.
they don't they don't take a long time, they just take time.
They take the time. Mm.
They because I think it appears very easy certainly on social media, that these brands blow up overnight, and the overnight really isn't overnight.
No.
Like it's sort of it's a steep learning curve in the beginning. It's all of that stuff, and there are some great podcasts with George from Represent talking about the early days and when they had this COVID moment, which then saw them really accelerate. But
Yeah.
they were making no profit. They'd been going for quite a number of years before that, and
Sure.
turning over, I think like 10 or 12 or 15 million or something, but with nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
And then they reassessed what they were doing, and it looks very different. There are still remnants. I think you can still find threads that come through.
Yeah.
But it looks very different to what they were doing. But they weren't newcomers in those factories going, "Oh, can you make some stuff for us?" They had traction. They had history,
relationships.
and they had
history,
relationships, and it then grew from there. So I think it's just inevitable that things take the time that they take. Making clothes is one of the darkest arts.
Wizardry.
I think it is wizardry because time takes on a different meaning. And I was reading something about it wasn't about factories, or it was a thought that I had about product and how I think what you're making, you're wanting perfection, but also character within that perfection. So you can tell it's a Barnfield jacket.
Yeah.
So there are parts to that. There's the cloth, there's the make, and then all the trims. And factories, I think, are becoming like electric cars in a way. They're all running off the same platforms, i.e. the machines. Like everyone seems to have Juki machines.
Yeah.
But different machines had idiosyncrasies to those machines. Like if you're making jeans, you want a Union Special chain stitch hemmer. It's not the best stitch, but it's the authentic stitch. You want a Union Special. You want Reese buttonhole. That's the buttonhole that you want.
Well, you do, just to interrupt, if you want a fishtail finish. If you want a bar tack finish, then Reese 101 is not for you.
Yeah. But the Reese one is like super authentic. You can have the gimp thread in and all of these things that machines have kind of flattened everything out.
Sure.
And certainly what I notice in Portugal, amazing making, and I'm sure it's the same in, well, I think it is. I think it's just the same. Like factories upgrade themselves, but they start to lose character.
Yeah. Okay.
In each factory being its own thing. Then the product, because they get obsessed with engineering and efficiencies, and you're like, wow, we can make 1 million meters of this fabric and it's all the same.
Yeah.
Well, all the same, made on machines that are all the same, made in a style that everyone, it's like it's all the same. Printed in a way that's all the same.
Yeah, I get what you say. So where's the USP?
And I feel that when you go into shops now, like when I was back in the UK, and the UK is quite different to the rest of Europe, but character brands then start to look very similar. But you can also do that at speed because it's easy for the factory because the fabric's the same. They're like, just bang this through. It's like cookie cutter stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think when you're unless you want that brand to be like that world, which then you're just piggybacking off the backs of Rep, the backs of Cole Buxton, for example.
Yeah.
Everything looks the same. It probably doesn't then work because you're just the same as the other brand that's an oversized sweatshirt with a da-da-da.
Yeah.
So you're trying to build in character, and I think that takes time because they're learning your language. You're learning your language. And I found this with jeans. Like there are certain things that I want. Like we were talking the other day about labeling and this, that, and the other. And you want the wash to be a certain way, and I want them to press it in a certain way because they have these machines that press, that like inflate. They're like two balloons that you slide the jeans down and then inflate it. Like,
So it's
blows
not.
this
So
thing
it's
up.
not. So it's not pressed flat. Essentially,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah, yeah.
2D. It's pressed
It,
in 3D.
well, it's pressed in 3D, but then they press it flat because they pack it.
Okay.
But it's like taking all the
Okay.
creases out. I like a
Uh-huh.
jean to look like what I consider a jean, which has character, which has
Mhm.
some of that freshly laundered look, which
Okay.
requires a light to no pressing, which, so you're going, okay, I don't want you to press it, but I want you to just like steam the iron here and here. You got to teach
Yeah.
someone that. All of those
Uh-huh.
things
Sure.
are being
Mhm.
taught. But the easy way to do it is just bang it through. Just
Yeah.
bang it through.
Sure.
But I think then clothes don't have a life then.
No, and I think that's also because that's something I've been thinking about recently. When you look at the brands that are doing well at the moment, yeah, and now I'm talking about brands doing well within kind of like the
Mhm.
generation below us, because that's where social media is focusing its algorithms, and
Yeah.
so therefore, there is the support there. Um, I've no idea the quality of the product. I should buy some just so that I can look at the product, but I have this feeling that everything is almost quite generic. Um, but the marketing is incredibly good and is developed specifically for social media. And so meeting those algorithms, because it's that whole thing of you can build the most beautiful shop in the world, but if you build it in the middle of the desert with no roads going there and no road map to get there,
Yeah.
nobody's going to visit. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's the position that potentially our generation is stuck in a little bit with social or with marketing, because there's a need to create marketing which is going to engage with the algorithms that
Yes.
are provided by social media. But do I want to create imagery that's like super fast paced, and does meet that algorithmic requirement? Well, maybe, but generally, I want to slow things down. I want to show that I want the marketing to be authentic to the product. It takes 12 weeks from the day that you order a jacket to the day that you receive it.
Yeah.
That is slow. And so it doesn't make sense to have marketing that's fast paced. So I
Yeah.
want to slow it down. But
Although
that doesn't meet the algorithm.
what I quite like about some of the things that you're like making clothes, the process takes time, but like the button, and I mean, people have filmed the buttonhole machine, but they work quite fast as well. It's like,
That's true.
but also like a Reese is relatively slow. It's like each one from Bartak to position. It's like
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
ASMR thing. It's like things take time. You could audio the whole thing and just film each process, and it's like that's how long
That's
it
true.
takes, and just share each snippet of.
But do you see how?
yeah,
Okay, I guess because then you're making like each piece of media is quite fast, but
yes,
yeah,
but it's slow.
Yeah. There's got to be. Basically, I'm kind of like committed to finding the solution. Like, what is the solution to creating content that meets the requirements of the social media platforms in terms of the algorithm for increasing reach, but that is also true to a brand which is more Gen X, later millennials, which is a bit slower, which is more intentional. Yeah, there will be a solution there somewhere. And I'm kind of committed to finding it.
What I'm seeing a lot of at the moment is talk of craft again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And an album was definitely of that craft brand generation. But it seems to be there's more people talking about it, certainly in fashion press, about the need to slow things down, return to craft.
Yeah.
Just have people in positions for longer, etc.
Did you listen to? I've turned my phone off. Did you latest Business of Fashion podcast? The reason I was turning my phone, looking to my phone, was to try and find the name, and I will find his name. But the first clip of that, the intro, was him saying, these things don't happen, in the snap of a finger. It takes time.
That was the guy
and he
from
was talking
Marnie.
exactly this.
That
might have been Francisco, somebody.
Yeah, I think the designer from Marnie, and it just seems to be something that's coming in a lot more, which I think will, but because it's also really interesting. Like when you become transparent in who makes my clothes, and then you have that interest, then it goes into how are my clothes made, and wow, it takes that amount of time to make
Yeah.
this, and then what do
Yeah.
what's the dye that you use? It's like, then the dye comes under scrutiny, so the dye changes, and people,
Mhm.
I think naturally people cycle back into the craft because it's interesting, and then
I
it will speed
think
up again. And
potentially as you get older. I was looking like on TikTok, and there was a guy who had he was just showing a beanie that they'd done, and I think it was made in England. I think it was hand frame, hand knitted, and it was 50 quid. The comments underneath, definitely 9 out of 10 of them are like, 50 quid. What are you talking about? And he is actually explaining, making in England, you're paying,
Yeah.
you're paying a living wage. These parts, but then there was a gem. Every 1 in 10 was like, I get it.
I think that's
And that's your audience.
representative of, I think that's representative of, like, not every brand is for everyone. Everyone has
Yeah.
a comment. Most people don't have the money.
No.
Like, honestly, like they don't. Like, we'll be making jeans for 200 quid, which isn't expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's £200.
Yeah.
But I add in, it's not expensive. Brackets, in relation to the brands that are selling for the same quality for 600.
Well, and even if you take a pair of jeans and be like, how many hours, like break it down hourly to how many, how much does it cost you per hour to wear those jeans?
Like,
And it ends up being a penny or less by the time you get rid of them.
not everything is for everyone. I think those,
Mm.
I don't think it's generational. I think it's just societal.
Yeah.
And the people that are interested, because craft isn't for everyone.
No, true.
The machinists that make in the factories, they have no interest in, oh my gosh, look how you do this button, and isn't that skillful? It's what they do every day.
Sure.
They're amazing
Yeah.
human beings, and I love being around them because they're kind of
Yeah.
as you expect. I used to make with a CMT unit, so cut, make, and trim, in Nottingham.
Yeah.
Just in other side of the lace market, and it was all women of a certain age. They were all older, with the exception of a few that were kind of non-native. They were sort of Eastern European. Everyone was amazing. It was like Coronation Street.
Okay.
The banter in there was fantastic. Loved it. It was like having 50 or 25 like mums or aunties around.
Yeah.
Just amazing. It's what they did though. There was banter. They would work really hard for you. They had the music on. It's like, oh, what are you doing tonight, Jeanette? Oh, I'm ballroom dancing. And you're like, brilliant. Love that. Just real characters having real lives, doing things. We shared that with people because that was for our brand interesting, picked up by certain people, but our customers range from 17 to 70.
Sure.
So the 17-year-old just wants the Fisherman's Cagoule in the apple green that's just come in because that's what was seen on X band, But then,
sure.
So I think it's just sharing those things. But I think craft is interesting for people of a certain age or a certain persuasion. Because I was a nerd, I loved how things are made, but I also loved the latest Nikes when I was 18. But but also other kids wouldn't. They were like, well,
sure,
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I think and I think, well, for me, craft makes it, or at least showing the craft makes it authentic.
Yeah,
because if you can't show the craft, it's because it doesn't exist, and therefore the product is just a product of marketing. Whereas if you can show the craft, you're like, the marketing is secondary to the product.
Yeah.
And that's definitely where I don't get me wrong. I come from a marketing background. I love marketing. I met a videographer on Monday, photographer, and she's lovely. And you talk about like people getting back to you really quickly. She was really responsive, sent me, before we met up, sent me her telephone number just in case there's any delays. Here we are. She was on time. She was engaged, and it just gave me all the good feelings to move forwards. And I was saying to her, like, I will always have a percentage of revenue set aside for marketing, and that percentage will probably be higher than many other brands because it's what floats my boat. It's what, it's what excites me. I want to create a platform through Barnfield to create creative work that's
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
and that brings other interesting people into my life.
Yeah.
So that was quite exciting. I'm looking forward to moving ahead with her. We just got to identify like kind of an MVP, like a little project that we can move forwards with, that we'll see how we work together. It's not going to cost too much, that gives us a result, that gets something done quickly. Yeah, rather than a 3-month founders video project or something like that. Something quick that we can get out the door and be like, that was cool. And now on to the next thing.
I think so. Yeah, and in that panic, not really panic, but introspection that I've had, and I've spoken about this on other episodes, it's like, yeah, writing is my thing. So actually I've been writing series of essays on piece. I've just needed to do that for me. That's going to live on Substack and Instagram. Then how does it visually come out? Kind of with the goal, okay, actually, you need consistency of discipline over time.
Yeah.
And so the first one no one's going to look at, but the 600th, it'll be like, wow, there's 600 of these.
Well, okay, so right, that ties into two things we've been talking about. One, like, what do you wish you'd known before you started? This will take time.
Yeah.
And I think if you add into that, it will take time and it will take consistency. And I think that's something that I learned from jiu-jitsu, actually. Like, if I look at, so I went hell for leather and progressed really quite quickly, but then tore my meniscus, was totally burnt out, destroyed by it, right? So I got 6 years in and I just couldn't do it anymore. Other people who I know, and I was going 6 days a week, and if I could, I'd go twice a day. I know other people who went 2 to 3 times a week and have done it for 12 years, and now they're black belts.
Yeah.
So it's that consistency and commitment over time, and you learn that again from the gym. Like, if you go to the gym for a week and destroy yourself, or go to the gym twice a week for a year and look at who gets the best results.
Yeah. But it's hard. It's probably human nature, isn't it? And human nature and a type of person.
It's the excitement. It's the dopamine hit that you're getting every time you learn a new submission in jiu-jitsu, or every time I hear back from the factory. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, like it's something. I'm feeling something, and ideally I want it to be good, and I'm obviously getting that dopamine hit. But it could be bad, and either way, I'm like, okay, how do I solve this?
Yeah.
And I met someone, I don't know whether we spoke about this on a previous podcast, but I met someone new, and they were asking me what I did, and I explained what I had done with the agency, and now I'm running Barnfield, and she was like, and do you enjoy that? And that question kind of took me, it was kind of left of field for me. Like, I didn't know how to answer it initially.
Yeah.
And I think I felt bad because initially I was just like, because I think at the time I hadn't got a Pico sample back or whatever. And then I was just like, you know what, actually, I don't know if I could tell you that I enjoy it. Overall, I do. In that moment, it was very difficult to say whether I was enjoying it. But what I did realize is that I can come up against a problem, and within probably about an hour of feeling like I'm in the depths of despair about the brand, and being like, my God, I've spent so much money and so much time on this, and what have I got to show? To then being like, well, how do I get over this obstacle? Okay, well, if I phone this person, and if the pattern goes there, and then I'm finding those solutions, and I'm looking forward to then getting the results from those solutions, that tells me that I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Because otherwise I'd just be like, and I'm done. It would be that much easier to quit, but I don't want to. I want to make it work. And I enjoy solving problems.
Yeah, nice. Similarly connected, I was reading about burnout the other day, and it was like, do you suffer from, or you don't suffer from burnout, you suffer from cortisol addiction?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many people talk about burnout like that. It's 6 days a week, but you're actually, it's not that you've overdone it. It's that you're addicted to the wrong thing. So you can't pace yourself. Okay. And I think that not being able to pace yourself is probably more dangerous than moving fast. And making
again,
clothes, you just have to pace yourself and it will
yeah,
happen. But see it
yeah.
as 12 months is not a long time.
Mm. And well, and to
But
reduce the
sorry,
anxiety. Yeah,
12
go on.
months, not a long time, but it has to happen in 12 months. Like on the 12th month, the last day,
Well,
if you keep working at it, you will get there, rather than trying to race and get it done. Like I've been guilty of this, like not giving a deadline or
mm,
a goal, just like we'll work till we get it right,
yeah,
wanting to work at pace, but people need that, like those
this is the
check-ins. It's
end.
like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, okay, I see what you're saying, because I think that, like, where my down in the dumps was kind of January, February, because I had said to myself, I'm setting aside 2024 to set down the foundations, to get a bunch of jackets and knitwear and all that sort of stuff. Just get it so that as of 2024, I can hit the ground running and go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But that hasn't happened. And I was like, okay, but that 12 months it's been difficult, because you're earning money. You're what is it? You're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So I'm earning money where I can, like doing the marketing side of
Mm-hmm.
things, in order to fund Barnfield.
Mm-hmm.
Barnfield is just costing money.
Yeah.
And until it's making money. And so, of course, what I want to do is to move away from the marketing side of things and focus entirely on Barnfield. And for every week that I don't get a sample back, like, it just eats into me a little bit more. Like, okay, this still hasn't happened. This still hasn't happened. This crossover is going to take longer.
Yeah.
And so that was particularly tough. I've almost said to myself again, I'm like, you know what? If it takes 2 years, it takes 2 years.
Mhm. The other thing I would do
Mm.
to that, whilst it's in my head, is I wouldn't make things so complicated, or I would make them extremely complex. And I was thinking about a guy that I know who he created a training brand called Rad.
Okay.
Amazing brand of shoes. I did a podcast with him, known him for a long time, super nice guy, Ben. And in that training space, CrossFit space, he said that people would say, well, why don't you just start with some t-shirts? And he was like, no, I'm going to make a pair of shoes. I'm going to make the best training shoe
Yeah.
in this way. Like layers of complexity on layers of complexity on
Mm-hmm.
costs, on all this stuff. And do you know what? He fucking did it. And it's amazing. And it was like, anyone
Yeah.
can make a t-shirt.
Yes. Yeah.
And if I'm going to have the problems are problems, anyone can make a t-shirt, but not everyone can make a
Yeah.
pair of shoes. And I'm
Definitely
just going
not.
to figure this thing out. And they're amazing, like taking the CrossFit world and training world by absolute storm,
Okay.
constantly selling out. And I quite like that sort of thinking about products, because you've either got to get it going or set yourself this task of the shoe, rather than like that middle ground.
Yeah.
I've been
Well,
thinking about that as well.
this is
Mm.
what, and I know, I appreciate one of the things. I've got a big thing about listening, and I wasn't doing a good job of showing that I was listening there. I wanted to say my thing, and I was just like, and I think I hate that. I really do. So I apologize for that, but I wanted to say my thing, which was that I was listening to a Tim Ferriss podcast, and he was saying exactly this: the greatest competition is in the middle ground. So go for the top, 1%.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'm at, because it was a couple of years ago, when I was still working on the Lawrence, and a mate of mine was like, well, why don't you just do t-shirts? I was like, because that's it. It's just, I almost just didn't even hear it, because I was like, that's not what I'm looking to achieve. I'm looking to achieve something really special.
Yeah.
And as much as I can say, like we were saying at the beginning of the podcast, you've got to do things for, you don't particularly have to do things for your peers, or those with more experience. But if you do, and that's the level that you're aiming for, then the end result should be of a higher standard than if you weren't considering it that way.
Yeah.
And that's what I want at the end of the day. I want someone who has been working in the industry for decades. I want to be able to give the peacoat to Theo who did modeling for me and is now doing bespoke
Yeah.
men's tailoring
Yeah.
at UCL. I want to give the peacoat to him and be like, take this to your lecturers, and for them to be like, yeah, that's beautiful. They
Yeah.
all work on Savile Row and all that sort of stuff. So you're not going to do that. You're not going to be able to do that if you're aiming for the middle ground.
No. Yeah, I think you get there. I was thinking about jeans. So I was like, actually, when you get the recipe, by the nature of them, they're kind of, in my head, is jeans should be not mass produced, but there's a way of making them. Like you can go the artisanal route, but that doesn't feel like a pair of jeans to me. Like jeans are for everyone in a way. Like they're quite a democratic style, like it's a piece of work. Even though they can get very expensive, and then that comes down to money. But jeans and
but they're to be used.
They're to be used and worn.
Yeah.
And they're going to tell a story over time. And I think that's the nice side of it. But also, if you make things in smaller batches, they cost more.
Of course. Yeah, that's just a given. And in fact, that was something that I was taught. But you can look at that from a positive perspective as well. And this is when I met the videographer, and I was saying to her, one of the things that I can do by working to small batches is I'm not looking to make cost-effective decisions. Like, say, for instance, the pockets on the peacoat. I could do them entirely with a thin cotton pocket fabric.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm using the same Melton for the front of it and a silk lining for the back. That would probably cost another £10-12 per peacoat. Now, you imagine you times that by tens of thousands, like someone like Burberry or something like that.
Yeah.
That's huge. For me, it's not huge.
Yeah.
For me, it's not huge. So I can afford to make these decisions that are really based on quality.
Yeah.
Because of the small batch nature. So it's almost leaning into that instead of being like, because we're small, because we're doing it in small batches, it ends up being more expensive. It's being like, yeah, sure. But it also means that it's really high quality because each and every one is overseen by a human being. Each of those decisions can be made so that it puts in the quality. But let's wrap this up. What are your next steps with? So you have denim samples. Do you have t-shirt samples?
Oh, I've got so much. I've got jersey, fleece, leather, so much stuff.
I meant like recent, like that you're pleased with.
All of the jersey. I've got some new samples to collect from a factory because Jersey factory closed down, so then I had to move to another one. So they've got 3 styles to pick those up. But in my head, I've already iterated on how would I improve that. My focus is on the jeans, ultimately. Jeans, the new washes, I've just got to review those, sign those off, that first wash, and then we can start to get into the weeds of exactly, where and how we want it to be washed in terms of on the garment. So that will happen probably next week now, unless I can get there this week. And then jeans, like the fit was good. I've got 3 other styles of fit that I want to do because I think you need a range. But really, the goal was to start with that one jean as the basis in 3 colors: black, blue, white, different washes within that. Because I mean that alone gives you 3 different jeans, but in different washes gives you 6, 9, 12, however many you do.
Yeah,
lots of options. A couple of extra styles. Really, then leaning into the denim, going, okay, if I then want to show it, so they're in the pipeline actually. So my pipeline, but getting the social side of it done. I had a light bulb moment yesterday, which was, get that brand out there whilst you're waiting for all those other things. Have conversations. I've been having some nice conversations with sales agents who are interested in what it is and where it is, and just conversations with people on how to sell it, how to doing all the things that we used to do in the old days, the oldie days of like the 90s, noughties, that people don't do now because they're obsessed with cost or social media, like finding the stores that you want to sell to, getting in there and then kind of giving the guys a pair of jeans.
Sure. Yeah.
to wear, because most brands don't
Hmm.
do that anymore. What sales guys used to do was just like, yeah, I'll send you a pair of jeans. They're wearing it on the shop floor. Oh, where are your jeans from? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Then you're already in there, and he's like,
Yeah.
oh, they gave them to me. It's this new brand. Da da da. So like old school human connection stuff.
Nice.
How do you get those things going? So more writing, more sort of social, old school moving
Genuine
through.
social rather
Genuine,
than
yeah,
social media.
yeah, genuine social.
Yeah. I think there's such a space for that, and I think that it absolutely baffles me that the social platforms are really leaning into AI, because the more kind of AI slop that there is on these platforms, the less you engage with it, because you're like, I don't know what's real, I don't know what's not, and so that you're going to engage with it even less. It's almost like they are um, eating themselves by doing it, and
Yeah,
I think that in-person events are going to be the new premium for sure. I say the new, they always have been, but I think there's going to be more of a shift towards that. And it's something that I've been looking very kind of like exploratory early stages of looking into to bringing people together.
yeah,
Um,
great.
I think we spoke about it again. Is that continuation of like Paul Smith and his
Yeah,
the pub gatherings and stuff like that, especially because I'm in Nottingham.
yeah,
It's quite a nice thing to kind of reinvigorate that.
yeah.
So I'm quite excited to do that. But again, just headspace. I've realized that I need, like, whilst the product isn't dialed in, I find it very difficult to think about all the other things,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
packaging, the swing tags, the this, the that.
Me
And I've
too.
had loads of time to do it, but I cannot, there's a barrier in my head.
Yeah,
And it's like, right, once that P coat is dialed in, I mean, I've got actually 4 different styles on the go, but it's that P coat seems to be the most problematic. And I don't know
yeah,
if it's just because it's further down the line that I'm aware of the problems. But once that is dialed in, and I had the sweaters dialed in as well,
yeah,
and the cardigan.
yeah,
So there's a bunch of like all these moving parts. Then I can be like, right, this is the packaging, this is the swing tags, this is that.
yeah,
Now I can start looking at events and stuff. So at the moment, it's all very low level, just kind of like, these are all things that I'm really excited to do, but I don't have the headspace to be able to plug in
yeah,
and make it happen.
yeah. Oh,
So, but let's talk. It'd be good to talk about all of that sort of stuff next time.
yes.
And so we'll leave it there. And yeah, obviously, from our roving reporter over in
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Porto,
yeah.
we'll
I'll
catch up next time.
hand it back to you in the studio, and yeah, next
Yeah,
time.
nice. All
Good
right.
to,
Cheers,
good to
James.
talk. Bye.
And you. Bye bye.